Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. So glad you're with us today to stay curious with a real special guest and a friend of the American Space Museum, Elizabeth Schneider. Hello, Elizabeth.
Bonjour. Hi.
Bonjour. Good to see you
Thank
today.
you. Thank you,
Yes, you were
Mark.
once a French teacher, and
I
me being a
was.
Frenchman, I do understand that word. But
Yes, yes.
uh,
Thank you.
now, Elizabeth is one of the influencers here on the Space Coast. She's an entrepreneur. I think I misspelled that. From Galactic Medallion. Okay, and she's going to talk about her business that is. Well, tell us in a nutshell what Galactic Medallion is. We'll talk more about you in a minute.
All right. Why, thank you.
Just in a nutshell, we'll
Yes,
get to it
Galactic
here.
Medallion is a specialty tour company, and we offer guests from around the world the opportunity to come and visit the little jewel we have right here on Florida Space Coast to visit Kennedy Space Center and Florida Space Coast.
Good. We want to be one of those little diamonds in those jewels there that you
And
bring your guests to.
we do. This is a
This is her
wonderful diamond.
beautiful logo behind here. She'll tell us a little bit about how that originated and so forth. But we want to take care of a little bit of business first and welcome you all to our program today. Elizabeth, you're a watcher of this program. Marty and I have reached 5 years on this program. We'll celebrate it Friday, okay?
Very
But
exciting.
we've officially hit the 5 years ago was COVID, and nobody wants to remember that, do they?
No, no, but we all remember where we were during COVID. Just
Yeah,
kind
and
of
I
like,
remember wondering where we were going to be in 5 years.
yes,
Quite frankly,
yes, it was a
we were
very,
very unknown. It was a little bit scary
yeah,
as you watch the newspaper or you watch the TV and they had a ticker tape of COVID cases climbing. I thought that was kind of uh, over dramatic in many ways. What did you think about the whole experience?
well, it certainly put a dent on tourism.
Yes, it did. It did.
It came to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's how I started Galactic Medallion because I had been a freelance tour guide for many, many decades,
Mm.
working for independent tour receptive companies from
Okay.
Europe and the United States. And I did tours in the Central Florida area to Disney and Universal Studios and SeaWorld, being based in Orlando. But then our tours brought us across the state and we visited other museums. But then when tourism stopped and we all had time to reflect and hibernating in our little homes and not able to go out, I had been encouraged for many, many years by friends and family that, well, you need to start your own company. So initially, I came up with the idea of Global Medallion, which was to offer the same smorgasbord of visits to the typical tourist areas in the
Hmm.
Central Florida area. But I did a lot of soul searching and realized that at this stage of life, I just want to share the experience of the Kennedy Space Center and space tourism. And I've done enough Disney and enough Universal Studios, so I modified Global Medallion because if you're going to go to space, you can't be global, we're galactic. And so, hence was the formation of Galactic Medallion, where we do specialty tours, space themed tours for Earthbound travelers, and in particular to come and visit Florida's amazing Space Coast.
Well, we'll talk more about her business there, one of her inspirations. She comes by it honestly, folks. Her grandpa was an amateur astronomer, and we're going to share those wonderful memories that you have of
Thank
your
you.
grandfather. And welcome everybody out there that knows Elizabeth. You and I got to know each other by just showing up at different things
Yes.
and events around the Space Coast. And we want to say hi to Carlton Bailey's watching today. Steve Jokums up in Illinois. Julie Clay. Hello, Julie. Bob Mayran. Good afternoon. You'll meet Bob and Julie and Steve at Shuttlefest,
Shuttle Fest.
which you have signed up for Shuttlefest. Thank you very much.
It's an
We're just a
honor.
couple weeks away here, and I'm treating this week like it's the event's next weekend, so I get all my ducks in a row. But what do you think about the lineup we have there?
So exciting, and also to see how it has grown over the years and the vast array of VIPs. The astronauts that you have going to be attending is very exciting, and what people learn by coming to Shuttle Fest, and also to honor that era in American space exploration is
Thank
just
you. Originally created for the shuttle workers, who you and I meet them every day
daily.
here on the Space Coast. Some still working, some retired, and allow the space geeks to get together.
Yes,
And it's definitely providing a void that Space Fest had out in Tucson when the Kim and Sally Poor put that on. And
correct.
Kim, a renowned artist, passed away, and Sally and her daughter just aren't going to do it anymore. But did you ever go to a Space Fest?
No, I
But you've
hadn't,
heard
but
about
I
them.
very much heard about it,
Yeah,
and
like
so I'm
20 Apollo astronauts there autographing stuff. Is
yeah.
and but so we're into this level now. We're very excited about it. It's a fundraiser for the museum, and we appreciate you supporting us by getting a ticket. What's your comment about our American Space Museum to people that maybe have not been in it before?
This museum is such a little gem that's hidden in downtown Titusville, which really is the city that launched
Yeah,
space,
bedroom community.
bedroom
You're
community.
sitting 10 miles away from the VAB right now. So
Truly, and it is a gem of space history here in a little small compact building. How much you have beautifully put on display so that any visitor who comes can really get a sense of our space program from its beginning. When NASA was formed in the end of the 1950s, and then our first success with Alan Shepard when we
hmm
were in competition with the Russians, back in the Cold War era, and all of that memorabilia from newspaper articles, and see some of the original consoles that that was used for flight control,
Yes,
and
we're real
from
proud of
helmets
that.
and astronaut boots,
Manuals and stuff.
manuals
Yeah.
and newspaper articles, and just to touch history and to feel the heartbeat here is just
Yeah,
incredible.
that's what enamored me, Elizabeth, is you're looking at the real deal. You're looking at
Yes,
like Civil War mementos that were on the battlefield, but those Civil War mementos are 100 years older than ours. Some of our oldest things are now getting into 60 years old.
yes,
We just celebrated the 60th anniversary yesterday of Gemini 3's launch with John Young.
yes.
A lot of people in Orlando don't realize John Young Parkway is named
It's
after one of the
yes
most
that
famous
he's
astronauts there.
a homegrown buck.
Uh, yeah, he sure is. There's and we want to not just a moment of space history. I asked Elizabeth if we could indulge in wishing
Please,
Shaky a
yes.
97th birthday to Jim Lovell. 97 years old today, born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1928. He is the oldest surviving person to travel in space. Isn't that
It's
amazing?
wonderful.
Buzz
It's
is
exciting.
96. You were asking me if
Yes,
Buzz was close. But what a guy! Of course, he transcends the astronaut community with the Apollo 13 movie, where
yes,
he was such an influential with Tom Hanks and the director Ronnie Howard
right.
on there. And there's looking good a while back. We have his handprints out there at Space View Park, and somebody left some flowers, the roses there for his birthday. This is what our museum formed,
It's a
was formed by the handprints. The only place in the world you can put your handprints on
truly
Jim Lovell, whose nickname was Shaky.
shaky. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
he got that from the being teased by the astronauts about something. I'm sure it may have come from Wally Schirra or Alan
yeah,
Shepard when because he was in the second wave of astronauts behind the Mercury astronauts.
right.
And I want to say hi to Marty Winkle over there behind our Streamlabs computer there. Did you ever meet Mr. Lovell anywhere? I never did and probably never will. But
I didn't so much meet him as I saw him during the Apollo program. Um, and he was at one of our reunions, and I got some autographs from him. But where I had a conversation with him, no.
Right. He moved in the Chicago area where he lived in his retirement. I do know somebody that visited him within the last 6 months at his retirement home that he's living, where his family is there. He's very mobile. He's just, can't doesn't want to fry eggs and make a sandwich. He needs someone to do that. But 97 years old. We're around some people that are 90 years old. My mother's 92.
Really?
And
Go, Mom.
she wishes she was more independent. It makes her mad that she can't do her own laundry
Yeah.
and stuff like that. She could, but she doesn't do it as well as she used to, and that's
Yes.
what frustrates
Yeah.
her there.
Earth gravity.
But
Ages
Tom
us all.
Celentano said he met Lovell a couple times. William Whiting says hi, Elizabeth. You know William. And the Usiak
Wonderful.
brothers are saying hi to you there. If y'all
Hello, all.
those of you that know Elizabeth, if you got a question about what she's doing with space tourism, maybe you've got a question about coming down here for one of her Galactic Medallion tours, you're going to get the VIP treatment, as she calls it, the white glove personalized service. And Elizabeth is like all of us here at the American Space Museum. We're just eat up with it. We know where we're at. We want everyone to know across America that this is the county where Americans left space and continue to leave
Yes.
space and change our world. I think it's so
Totally.
underestimated how the shuttle era and the space station particularly has changed how we live now.
It's totally. And of course the generation born today, they're just born into it. They don't really know what brought us to where we are today. You referenced showing the handprints of Jim Lovell. The Spacewalk Hall of Fame that is part of the American Space Museum, just a couple blocks from the museum here, is such a treasure. It really is for those people who have traveled and been to Hollywood to see, I guess it's no longer called the Grumman Grauman's Chinese Theater
Oh,
now.
they changed that
Yeah,
too?
I forget what it is, but
Okay.
where all the Hollywood
Smith and
stores.
Jones Chinese Theater.
Yeah,
or Chinese,
yes, yeah, where the Hollywood actors from yesteryear and currently will go and leave their handprints and their footprints in front of and sign their signature. And that's what this Spacewalk Hall of Fame is. It's
Yeah.
just, of all the astronauts from the Mercury, the Alan Shepard from the original Fleet of
Gemini
Seven, the
and the
Gemini, and then Apollo,
Then
and
we
then
honor
the shuttle.
shuttle.
It's just a beautiful
Thank
walkway,
you.
and then leading you right up to the Indian River edge, where you look right across and see the vehicle assembly building. I still get goosebumps every
Cool.
time.
It's like a Taj Mahal or
It
an Eiffel
is.
Tower. It truly is. And
And you can also see, you can put your hands in their handprints and see how little they were. The original astronauts had to be small to fit into
lots of them.
to fit into that capsule.
Yeah.
So when you kind of compare your own handprints to theirs, it's really very thrilling.
It is.
So it's a wonderful part of the visit coming to the.
Of course, those are names of space workers that are there. Gave us $100 to build this. There's a Mickey Young there. Marty's on two spots there, the shuttle and the Apollo era there. And it's just something that, wouldn't you like wherever you worked? I worked for Newsweek magazine for about 3 years in New York City. I'd love for them to call me up and say, Mark, send us $100 and I'll put your name on 444 Madison Avenue, where our offices were. This is the kind of jobs our American space worker had and why we love them and honor them here at our museum. So,
Yes. Yes. And there were so many back in the era. That was, of course, when Kennedy gave the defied American engineers and rocket scientists to get us on the moon within the decade by the end of the 60s. 400,000 workers strong made it happen.
Yep.
And that was the era when what was it, like 4% of the federal budget went to space exploration in NASA. Sadly,
while we were having the Vietnam War going on and
Yes.
the Civil War strife going on. It was an
Yes.
incredible decade, the 60s, particularly 1968. And Jim Lovell, who we just honored on his birthday, and his buddies Bill Anders and best friend Frank Borman both passed away last year.
Yes.
Jim just had his 97th birthday. People think they saved 1968 orbiting the moon. And these are stories that we're here to tell that you love enough about to share with people with your galactic tours here.
Very much so.
To give you and I'm going to ask you when I show Grandpa's slide here a little bit about your background there, but let's talk about your what kind of tours you want to do for people.
Absolutely.
But let me slip to here to show that on your website there you've got a limousine, a helicopter. Where you just pull us off our yacht too and give us a tour.
That's our top tier tour. Yes, we love to have the opportunity. How else do you get to the Space Coast but by space? So our top tier tour, literally, we leave the Orlando area in particular. We have a very wonderful working relationship with the Orlando Ritz-Carlton Hotel. And we land our EC-130 Eurocopter, which is sort of the creme de la creme in helicopters. We fit 5 guests, and the helicopter lands right at the hotel. And we pick the guests up from their doorstep, and we take the 15-minute flight over as opposed to the hour drive on the 528. And before we touch down at the little local Space Coast Regional Airport, Titusville Airport, we do an aerial sightseeing tour over what we're going to visit during the day. So obviously our pilot gets approval from the shuttle tower, and we haven't had any refusal. And we fly over the vehicle assembly building. We see the launch pad 39A and 39B from 700 feet above. We get to buzz the shuttle landing strip. We carry on a little further south and go over the top of the Kennedy Space Center, which is contiguous to Blue Origin. Blue Origin's campus is right next door. And when you see it, can't miss it, all that striking Blue Origin blue. But when you fly over, you see how much real estate Blue Origin has. It almost dwarfs the size of the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. Just incredible. Yeah. And then we continue our aerial tour further south to Port Canaveral. And again, a flyover. We see the cruise ships on the south side, but on the north side, the industrial side, that's where the SpaceX recovery vessels bring back the boosters that fly back. So we oftentimes
frequently there's one there.
Right there.
Rarely there's not one.
Yeah, and as many
sitting
launches.
At grills eating or
yes,
Rusties.
That's precisely what we do for some of our tours. Exactly, we go and we can just marvel at the ingeniousness of Elon Musk. We'll leave his political things aside for right now, but the reusability of his spacecraft has enabled the cost to come down, and so we can see from our 700, 800 foot above the booster, as well as the recovery vessels. So we look down and you see the X, and it's very exciting. Then we circle back and then land at the Space Coast Regional Airport, and then we have a limousine or a luxury SUV that brings us to the entrance of the Space Center, and get there in time to start our tour of the Space Center. I have other expert guides who work with me, people who have been involved with the space program, either working on the shuttle themselves in the orbital processing plant. One woman in particular, she grew up here, and her father was involved in the space program. And so she references, I remember as a kid, Uncle Neil would come over and Uncle Buzz, with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. And so she recounts, so we all have our respective stories that we can share with our guests. And We also have the wonderful opportunity to have Mike Leinbach, the shuttle launch director for the
Right.
last 10 years of the shuttle program. If guests choose to have that as an optional add-on, he does his individual tour around the shuttle Atlantis pavilion.
Yes.
And he's just a wealth
Yeah,
of
well, I know Mike real
information.
well.
He's such a
Marty bought me that tour for my birthday a couple
did
years
you?
ago.
Yeah,
Mike,
the
the
launch director
director's tour.
tour.
Yeah, he
Yes.
doesn't do it directly with the Kennedy Space Center anymore.
No,
But
but he
and
does work with us.
some were asking, like Michael Bruno, what does an example of this specialty tour? I get the idea that this is like that TV show, the Mediterranean ship, where
Yes. The love, was it the Love Boat?
no, not the
No.
Love Boat, the Mediterranean cruise, and it's a small yacht, and they
Okay.
got 5 or 6 young
Yes.
people on it, or
Yes.
that.
I'm drawing a
So
blank.
this is VIP. This is not.
That's our top tier tour. Yes, and then after
So you got different levels.
Yes.
The website galacticmedallion.com. You can outline some of those, but you're talking from a good $4,000 or $5,000 maybe, it sounds like,
yeah,
down to
a
some
little
other,
north.
a little north
Yeah,
of that.
it's
Okay.
that helicopter that really adds the expense to
Right.
it. But
Well, that's a big deal to go from helicopter and not go
it-
through the traffic over
it
here.
really is.
But
and
so you're
and then we
upper
have-
class clientele for sure.
Mhm.
I
And then
mean,
we
or
can just
people
leave
that have
from the
saved to
Orlando-
make a once in a life, thing, which is just to be for anybody.
Yes, yes.
uh,
Or if you're not staying at the Ritz-Carlton, we do have the tours that emanate from the helicopter charter company that we work with, who has their beautiful terminal just east of downtown Orlando. So
mhm.
we will launch from there, and then we have
I wanted to get that out about what it costs and what you can do, but of course, there's so many add-ons. And
right.
Elizabeth, you've got a background in this. We'll talk about here in a minute.
Sure.
On there, because you've also tagged on a couple things with your business here, and we want to show this slide that shows your My Special Place in Space.
Yes.
Tell us about that program of yours.
That is near and dear to my heart. My Special Place in Space is a program that we offer, and we work in partnership with a charity organization called Fostering Kindness. And it is Orlando based. And what we do is
I have that right there.
yes, My Special Place in Space. And sadly, children, by no fault of their own, sometimes they're, I'll use the word, tossed into foster care because of issues with their parents or their families.
Mm-hmm.
And they are bounced around from different families or group homes, and they are, I don't even want to use the word underserved, but sadly not even served. They
Mhm.
don't have experiences like this, and their self-esteem, their self-worth is just they are at risk of really falling into gangs, or just not finishing their high school diploma, getting their education. And so My Special Place in Space provides, in working with Fostering Kindness, they provide birthday gifts for kids, mostly the teens in the foster care program. And working in conjunction with the guardian ad litem, the legal person that represents the interest of the child,
Yes, right.
and to find out what each child is interested in. And oftentimes they are interested in space, so they don't want a gift. They want to have a day to Kennedy Space Center, because oftentimes they start at one school system and then they're bounced to another county, and they just never have that opportunity, or they don't have the finances to have a day's visit. So we provide this opportunity for them to come and have a day of fun and adventure. But also our goal is to let them know that Earth, which is right here in space, which sometimes people forget, that they are important. They have a special place right here on planet Earth, but we want to expose them as well to the vibrant 21st century space economy and different opportunities for them to continue their education, and why they should continue their education. And one little known fact, which is what we hope to motivate these young people is in the state of Florida. If you have been in the foster care system and you get through your high school diploma, many of them it's only through a GED, but if they get accepted into an institution of higher education, the state of Florida will cover their tuition all the way through their doctorate.
Their doctorate?
Through their doctorate.
That's amazing.
So we really,
That's good for the state of Florida.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. And
absolutely.
so we are trying to encourage these young people to continue their studies, to motivate them, again, through adventure, through that often used term edutainment, to educate them and to entertain them and to see what the space program, where we are today and what's on the horizon for tomorrow, and to motivate them to continue their studies, not only in the STEAM, the science, engineering, technology, and math, but the arts are so important. So
I'm glad you said that. We're a big STEAM people here, our bilingual STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And
yes,
sometimes it's called STEM, and they drop the A out for arts, but how would we know what a shuttle looked like without an artistic concept?
very much.
How would we know what, we've not been on the moon with the Artemis array of rovers and stuff like that they're planning. That's the artwork that's showing us
Truly.
that.
And artists who design spacesuits and capsule seats that are comfortable.
Chris Callie is out there. Artists, we've got artists, Doug Forrest watching today, okay? And we've got a sewing artist, Jean Wright's
Jean
watching
Wright is
today.
there, yes.
She says hi to you.
Hi, Jean.
On there, and everybody's telling me that show I was talking about that I relate your
Tell us.
tour to is Below Deck.
Yes.
Yes, Below
Yes,
Deck.
thank
They
you
have
all.
a series that Below Deck.
Yeah.
And that is a guilty pleasure of mine from time to time. Okay.
Yes, yes,
In there,
yes.
watching some good mindless shows like that. Thank you all for watching today. I think you are enjoying the very infectious passion that Elizabeth has for space and wanting people to experience on a travel level that truly is an A-list tour with your helicopter taking you over the space centers and so forth.
But we also have what we call our DIY, drive it yourself.
Mhm.
So we will
Okay.
meet the guests. Actually, oftentimes our starting point is over at the Courtyard Hotel.
Right.
With
Courtyard Marriott
Courtyard
here.
by Marriott Hotel, which is
Behind the Hyatt Place, the best hotel.
best
on
hotel,
one.
yes, which
That's
was the
where our shuttle
original,
fest is,
yes,
yeah.
yes. And then oftentimes at the end of our tour, because generally speaking, the Kennedy Space Center closes at 5 o'clock, so we end our tours with an adult beverage for those who want,
Mhm.
and little nibbles at the space bar. And
Okay.
we have a farewell champagne toast, farewell, and kind of reflect on the day, because at the space bar, which is right on the Indian
River there, of
you can
course.
look over and see the Space Center. You can look across and see the Vehicle Assembly Building and the buildings of the Blue Origin. And it's just a beautiful way to wind down the day as sunset.
It
sunset
is. Have
hits.
you ever caught a launch up there?
Beautiful. It's
Yeah,
a
I've
beautiful
seen,
venue
yeah, I
for
caught
launches.
a night launch and a day launch up there
Yeah.
at some events. This is the Space Bar we're talking about, not a sponsor of us yet. They're at the Courtyard Marriott behind the Hyatt Place.
Behind the Hyatt Place, the two
which
wonderful
are-
hotels that we do work with. And we do groups that we have a multi-day tour.
They are.
Yeah. So
Well, I'm excited for you. And how long have you been doing this version of your passion?
for the
Galactic
Galactic
Medallion.
Medallion was started in 19, it shows
Yeah.
my orientation, 2021.
Okay,
right
yeah, right after
COVID.
COVID.
Right.
Okay, so it was formalized
Yes,
that
yes.
good. This is something that y'all might think about a very special event or something like that you want to do. And I would offer on behalf of our museum, Elizabeth, that we would like to offer a family membership to your tour guide, your tour. Anytime you wish, you're welcome to fix
Lovely.
your clients up with a family membership, which is not much, $45 a year, but that's something that to add value to your.
I would love that, yes, because that is one of the other little gifts that we give to our guests is a membership into the National Space Society, which I'm a member of, and
Right.
this we will add this to our
Well, they're
repertoire
certainly
of.
friends with you. We got we're going to have Bert Dick on Thursday from the National
Oh,
Space
fabulous! Bird is a
Society.
wonderful, yeah.
And he's going to kind of give us an update of what Bert's been doing. He travels all over as the membership director for the National Space Society.
Yes.
And of course, Gabriel Rothblatt, I found there, that is now our executive director, and he and I are binary stars
I
running
love
this
that
museum
expression. Yes.
in there.
And we work with the National Space Society. We have we've brought tours that we offer to the National Space Society members, and so I have a good working rapport with Bert, and we've offered the guests to come and visit Florida's Space Coast to see the National Space Society's headquarters. You know, they moved from Washington, D.C. down
Yes.
here to the Center for Space Education a couple of years ago. And so we are going to be adding other destinations to the repertoire of space-related destinations for the National Space Society members.
You know, I just had another thought. Next year for Shuttle Fest 5, you could make a package with that and bring your guests
That's
to
a
a
grand
weekend
idea.
experience
All
at
right.
Shuttle Fest 5.
Let's do that.
Maybe we could meet, depending on what astronauts, and I've already got 4 astronauts wanting to come to Shuttle Fest 5. Word's getting out, and we're very excited about that. And
Good job.
So those of you coming to Shuttle Fest, I know there's about half a dozen of you or more watching today's show, including Connie McDaniel. She'll be
Hello, Connie.
taking your money and helping out big time at her 4th Shuttle Fest to help us with. We're looking forward to seeing you and me, and you could get to know Elizabeth a little bit more. Elizabeth, anything else you'd like to say about Galactic Medallion?
Just
I'm not going to end the show. I'm kind of doing it backwards.
all right.
I want to talk about how you grew up and your grandpa
I would,
here on
that's
there.
my
There's a
joy.
fun little way to end our segment here. But tell us, what else do we need to know? Your website, Galactic Medallion. You work with people, you know, to get what they want to budget for an experience here.
Yes.
We certainly hope
Wonderful
that the American
Jean, who's
Space
there.
Museum can be involved on a
yes.
level. And I think you brought guests in here before to check us out. So
Very much so, and particularly because we are wanting to promote, obviously, our one-day tours, but we do multi-day tours. Well, we're not cookie cutter. We talk to our guests for those who are planning in advance and get to know them a little bit better so that we can tailor, curate, craft the tour to their interests. If they have younger children, or the father himself is a space buff, and since the late 1960s, late 1950s, early 1960s, we had a couple from Australia in October, and then I had another one in December. But he was so excited. Mike Leinbach was our guest speaker then too, and he was so excited to show us. He found on Amazon the exact transistor radio that he had as a young boy, that he listened to when Sputnik went up.
Oh my gosh.
And which was kind of the original satellite that started the space race. And so we tailor our tours to the interests, and hopefully we're getting more and more interest for our multi-day tours. So rather than staying in Orlando, we do have the guests. We either meet them at the Orlando airport, or they get here locally, or we provide transportation for them, and then do a multi-day tour here at the Space Coast to visit the Kennedy Space Center on day 1, day 2 to come to downtown Titusville to visit the American Space Museum. I love to showcase the Walk of Fame because it's such a hidden little nugget of gem.
It is. It's looking good, and
yes.
And the new mayor, Andrew Connor, has been meeting with Gabriel and I about doing some improvements there. There's a group that wants to plant some trees and other things there.
And
we're
however I
looking
can
at
help,
an
I would love
International
to.
Space Station monument there to honor the space station
Station.
workers, the final piece of the puzzle, so to speak, the American space program as we're going to know it, because let's face it, it's all going to private industry. And
Yes.
I think NASA 10 years from now will be more like the FAA overseeing the safety so on there.
Yes.
So
And boy,
good to you. Good luck with your venture. And I know some
thank you.
people are watching today that would might be looking into taking a tour with Galactic Medallion there with Elizabeth Schneider. In kind of a backwards way of doing our Stay Curious program, I usually ask where'd you grow up and how'd you get in the space business? But there's a little video on that you ought to check out about your grandpa Irving Getz there. Grandpa Getz.
Yes, there's Grandpa.
And we'll show a picture of Grandpa right here. This is very cute, folks up there. There's your grandpa with his telescope.
Yeah.
So where'd you grow up and how did this man influence you?
Okay, I grew up in Long Island, New York.
Which town? Marty's from Hicksville.
Yes, we've talked about it. We're somewhat neighbors. I was North Shore in Huntington, kind of
Okay.
near Woodbury, Cold Spring Harbor, Cold Spring
That
Hills.
don't mean nothing to
Doesn't
me.
mean-
I'm
yeah,
a
but-
Northwest farm boy from
Okay,
Ohio.
well, we
You
forgive you.
sophisticated Long Islanders.
Long Island, New
Yeah.
York. But
I'm corn-fed, not clam
clam-
fed. Or
you are forgiven.
all right.
And but my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, were living in the Buffalo, New York suburbs, and Grandpa Irving was by day a foreman in charge of building a segment of the New York State Thruway, but he was a self-taught, brilliant scientist. He always regretted and felt bad and was not proud of himself because he never got a college education. But this man was smarter
Aw.
than anybody who had a college education. And at night, when he would come home after a long day of physical labor, he would tuck down in his basement and read about the heavens and learned how to grind the lens to make a telescope.
There he is grinding a mirror to a
Yes.
telescope there. Something I did as a young man, but that's
Yeah, so
so he ground an 8-inch and a 10-inch
8-inch
mirror.
and a 10-inch
That's
mirror
what-
that got
that big telescope
confirmed
there.
by the Buffalo Astronomical Society for its accuracy. And then around the 10-inch telescope, he built an observatory. So
Oh, it shows so the picture
Yeah,
here. Yeah, this
yeah.
is appropriate to show this right here.
so
Nice looking picture of Elizabeth there
in
Hanging
front of
out
Grandpa's
outside the
observatory.
Now,
So
you don't build something like that in a backyard, and back in the 60s and the newspaper people don't show up. And so I've seen a lot of news stories on your grandpa here.
yes, and so he, as a young girl during the summer, I would go and visit them and spend a month. And so
Oh,
we would
really?
go out in the middle of the night, much to Grandma's consternation. You can't wake her up at 2 a.m, Irving. Yes, we can. So we would sneak out and at all different times of the night. And the suburb where they lived, a little town called Hamburg, was totally away from light pollution. So we had the magnificent sky, and his favorite planet was Saturn. And so we would go out if Saturn was rising at 2 a.m, and I had the wonderful opportunity to look through that lens finder and just see the magnificence of the Saturn's rings and just, the pockmarked moon and just the cosmos. And I was fascinated, and he was so knowledgeable. And he also set up on his telescope an equatorial mount. So he set up his camera to take time-lapse photography. This, of course, was back in the day of film.
Of course, yeah.
And so he had
Primitive
also,
times.
yeah, he also had built in the basement a dark room. So then we would take the film and we would go in the dark room, with the red light and do not
Right.
open. And so I saw literally.
What a month you had.
I
Was,
did.
from your friends in school and stuff like that, and then
Yeah,
learning science. Your grandpa Getz was a citizen scientist.
truly.
And today citizen scientists use computers to analyze data, but he also may have captured a UFO, folks. What's this all about? in
Yes.
this story here.
So there it is. That was an object that he captured. That was very controversial because it certainly looked like a UFO with the rings. And back in the day when they talked about flying saucers, and that,
Controversial photo.
yes,
Says here, Full Moon near Tycho is the title of this photograph by Mr. Getz, showing what could be interpreted as a flying saucer visible in the top center to the left of the moon. It was taken with a 35 millimeter camera through a 10-inch f5.6.5 reflector telescope. Shown at Buffalo Museum of Science exhibit, the print carried the notation, "The saucer is a mechanical defect." And photographers out there probably say it's probably on the emulsion, the film on there, but kind of looks like Saturn actually
yes,
too. But and that was
1974.
1974, the Hamburg Sun, August 74. So, well,
And-
what a cool memory! What a cute picture of you there.
Thank you. Back in the day.
Back in the day in there, and what a tremendous, I just love talking about our families on Stay Curious because, I was the telescope guy and, just sort of like leave him alone. He's just out there looking at the stars,
Yeah.
type of thing. But then decades later, half a century later, people know me for that and ask me, are you still looking through telescopes? Are you still taking pictures, that sort of thing? Are you still crazy about astronauts? And hell yes, all
Yes.
three of them, and,
Yeah. Once it's in
and-
your blood, you can't
yeah, so
shake
you
it.
come by it honestly. Yes. Did you ever
Yes.
get into photography or
I
develop film with
did.
your grandpa?
Yeah, I did. I really did. As I say, he was such a wonderful
Quite
teacher.
fascinating to develop the prints off the negative and just see them
Truly
appear in
developed.
front of you.
Yeah, yeah.
in
It
there,
does.
so.
The image
Yeah.
just comes to life. It is fantastic.
Here's another picture of your grandpa and his observatory. He had maps of the solar system. And I'll bet that one had Pluto as a
Yes,
planet. in
Pluto
it.
was definitely
Map
so.
of the moon there. What a lively guy. I noted here from your biography of him on YouTube that he lived a ripe old age of 83, and
Yeah,
but he's gone in 1988. That's
yeah,
30 years ago and or more.
yeah.
Uh,
I miss the visits up there. I miss his very
What brings you
humble-
back? What do you see and you think, oh, Grandpa Getz? Is there something?
Every time I look at the sky.
Uh-huh.
Every time I look at the moon,
Oh,
every
that's
time
beautiful.
I that's why I have my passion to share this beautiful little gift we have right here at Florida Space Coast, because
Mhm.
it's really the only working space. What am I thinking of?
Port.
Port.
Yeah,
Yes,
Space
thank you,
Center,
thank you.
yeah,
Space Center in the
spaceport.
world.
Yeah.
You know, other nations that are launching spacecraft, they don't let the public come in and see and visit and experience it. And so I just have such a joy sharing this love of our cosmos and our little tiny place in space here in our solar system. And
Well,
as
we're happy to be part of that
Yes,
with you
very
there, and
much.
certainly glad, like I said, Elizabeth and I become friends a couple years ago, showing up at Sands History Museum events. You've been to Shuttle Fest and other events here at the museum, and it's just describe the space community of sometimes we meet at Zarella's and there's a dozen of us there,
Yes.
and it's kind of like people following sports in a way, but to me it's a lot different.
yeah,
It's
we're kind of groupies.
yes, yes,
Like the old groupies of music.
yes,
There
right.
was some like the
Have rocket launch, will show up
yes,
type of thing
yes,
in there.
yes,
And
and
because it never gets old.
no,
We've
and it
seen
keeps
hundreds
advancing.
of launches the last 3 or 4 years here.
Yeah, and to SpaceX's credit, now for some of us who live on the Space Coast, we become blasé about, oh, yes, there's another launch. Oh, I forgot. Or when you feel the house kind of shake a little bit, oh, I guess there was another rocket launch. Whereas
Yeah,
some of my
right. The
guests,
dogs barking and you're going in
Yeah.
the middle of the night.
yeah,
Oh.
and so often the guests from different parts from around the world just crave to see one rocket launch. And I have learned over the years that I will tell guests if they give me dates that they want to come and visit, and they say, well, when is a rocket launch? And I'll say, well, it is scheduled, but please understand that I don't
Push the button.
yeah, I don't
You-
push the button, and I don't say that we're building your tour exactly around this launch date, because so many times I've had groups, well, we want to go those dates, and then it gets scrubbed for some reason, weather or some little technical glitch or what have you, and so they miss it. But then 3 days later, I'll have another group, and that group lucks out because it had been the launch had been postponed. But certainly to share
But
this,
you get busy around that time where people are thinking about that. Gosh,
yes.
think of the calls you're going to get when we launch the Starship.
Oh,
there
it's so
one
exciting.
day. That's just
Yeah.
about 8 miles from away from here. That will be.
And many people don't realize that. Some of our guests, uh, some people, hard to believe amongst us space nerds, that they didn't think there was anything past the shuttle program, or
Mhm.
they mix up, oh, what's Blue Origin or space, they just don't realize it. So to be able to share what's on the horizon, and certainly, as you said, many people are aware of the big Starship in launching out of Boca Chica, Texas, but SpaceX is planning to have ships launch from.
Oh, they built the
built the-
gantry. Marty's seen the gantry they're building on Pad 39A,
Yes,
right,
yes,
Marty?
the
In the
the
structure there.
yeah.
So
yeah, the chopsticks, the orbital lift mount is there. I almost think it's too close to the other, whereas
I almost think it's too close to everything
Yeah.
in a way, but no, that's
Yeah, and
we'll
he's building
see.
the Giga Bay,
Yeah,
the big Giga Bay where they're going to be manufacturing these ginormous, what he originally called the BFR, and you can
Yeah,
figure
the
out
big,
what that acronym meant.
yes,
The big
big
rocket.
F rocket
Yeah.
there.
Um,
The last 7 years, this Space Coast has really been transformed by SpaceX. You cannot deny it.
yes. Yeah.
I mean, the Elon Musk company has changed the attitude here. That's why
Completely.
I moved here. Karen Conklin, rest in peace. She kept saying we're
Yes.
coming at a good time, Mark. Things are going to change, and it really has, all the way down to the convenience stores. There's just more. Of
Yes.
course, we had a big building boom and so forth. It's kind of leveled off. Realtors didn't even have any places to sell anything, any product to sell.
Yeah,
And,
and those of us who have been in the area for a long time have seen the dips, the
Mhm.
troughs, and then the peaks. Sadly, after the Challenger exploded in 1986 and everything stopped, the area became kind of like a ghost town, as they were ramping back up. And the same thing when the shuttle ended in 2011, and they had the Artemis program kind of on the books, but they weren't ready just to transition into the next program. So the area has had a resurgence thanks to the SpaceX, which, were it not for SpaceX, America really wouldn't have a space program right now. We're trying
a crude space
a
program.
crude space program, but
And this is part of what Galactic Medallion wants to do, is promote the new rocket renaissance, as we call it here.
yes.
Hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Elizabeth Schneider. Why don't you say hi to the friends there instead of me
Oh,
reading
look
them
at all
off
these
there.
wonderful people. Dave
Stangy.
Carlton Bailey, Dean Babcock, Stephen J., Julie Clay, Bob Miram, Tom Celentano, Gary Jeriel, Mark Usiak, Tom Usiak, thank you all, Bill Whiting, Doug Forrest, Connie McDaniel, Michael Bruno, Elena Adhirari, Jean Wright, Neil 1030, and Chris Colley. Thank you all for being here.
And Cliff Watson
Cliff
just joined
Watson.
in
Thank
from
you,
Pomona,
Cliff.
Australia.
Yay,
Okay.
Australia. I have wonderful friends over there.
But he's on the surfing coast over there, kind of in the middle north up there. Cliff sat in that very chair 4 times,
Oh.
haven't you, Cliffy? So thank you for joining us
Thank you,
today.
Cliff.
Thank you all for your great comments today. And I really enjoyed I really enjoyed you sharing your grandpa's story there.
Thank you.
All right. And we welcome you back to let us know, Elizabeth, how things are going with you. Maybe we'll pull a bunch of you in here one day when you're touring our museum.
I would love that.
Is
Thank
there
you.
something that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share with our wonderful group of watchers out there?
You did a beautiful job. You're a wonderful interviewer. I love watching the podcast when I'm not featured, and thanks to Marty handling the back office of things. And
Well, thank you very much. After about 1,250 episodes, we're finally getting it down a little bit.
well,
But,
you do a great
thank
job.
you so much. I've
Thank
been
you
looking
so
forward
much.
to
It's
this
been wonderful.
interview with you
and hope
for a while.
everybody considers a visit to Florida Space Coast. There's
Absolutely.
just nothing like it.
Galactic Medallions will fix you up. And tomorrow we're going to have a very interesting program with Bob Granath, the public affairs officer, retired out of Kennedy Space Center. Here, as we end Women in Space Month, we're going to talk about some women journalists that Bob has researched for us, including someone I'm very interested in, Mary Bubb, who is quite a character, I understand. So you want to see Bob Granath on tomorrow's Stay Curious, and Thursday Bert Dick will be here to update us about the National Space Society and all the fun he's been having. And Friday we'll have a little celebration of our 5th year anniversary of bringing you Stay Curious. Incredibly, Marty and I are still talking to each other. So God bless my big brother over there for putting up with me. Marty, thank
Great
you for a
team.
great job. Is there anything we need to take care of over there?
Nope, we're good.
All right. We appreciate everybody supporting our museum this way. For over 25 years, the American Space Museum has been celebrating the birth of America's space age right here in its delivery room, Brevard County. And we are so blessed to attract wonderful people like Elizabeth Schneider here that gets what we're doing and is sharing that word every chance she gets. And we mean that so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Mark
So,
and Marty, for
until
what you
tomorrow
do.
with Bob Granath, you're going to get a great history lesson from Bob. And till then, I'm Mark Marquette saying we can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.
Bye-bye.